Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Fan Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Huh? So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
Your favorite podcast is Critical Blast.
Hey, we want to shout out to our sponsors, Daytona Beach Comic Con. If you are a fan of comic books, if you're a fan of comic book conventions, and if you like meeting comic book creators and getting comics and comic-related stuff, then you need to make your plans to attend Daytona Beach Comic Con. This year's show is September 9th and 10th. Silverline will be there, so you should make your plans to be there too. We'll see you there. If you like comics and find yourself in the Orlando, Florida area, doesn't everyone come to Orlando at some point in time to see the House of Mouse? But when you're here, you need to make it a point to visit Coliseum of Comics, especially the one on East Colonial Drive. They carry Silverline comics, even a limited edition Coliseum of Comics version of our comics. So, when you go, be sure to ask for Silverline Comics and tell them we sent you. OCD stands for Orlando Collector Deviants. OCD, Steve and Trish. They're a family of geeks who promote geek things, particularly those around the Orlando, Florida area. They're big supporters of Silverline, and we think you should be supporters of theirs too. Go give them some love. If you are an independent comic book maker and you need to get your independent comics made, you need to look no further than Kablam Digital Printing. They print our books, and they do a bang-up job. They're not only trusted by Silverline, but many, many independent comic book makers. Head on over to kablam.com and see for yourself just how easy it is to have your comic printed by them. And tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
And I'm Scott Wakefield, host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham, where we talk about comic books and all kinds of great storytelling, sometimes with incredible guests. And we want you to join us Wednesday nights from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you there.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Silver Sunday on this September the 5th. We're in a new month, and so we're going to talk about new stuff as we kind of watch live. We're live, so we're going to watch Pete try to get on and off and on and off. Or actually, he's trying to get on, but we're going to watch him probably pop on and off. And he does not currently like this system that we're using, so Stephen Brown says I made it on time. What's up, Stephen? So yes, I am rolling.
All right, I'm C. Michael Lanning, independent artist.
I'm Curtis Fujita. I'm the creative director at Silverline.
Hi, I'm Roberta Conroy. I'm the colorist at Silverline.
My name is Thomas Flormonti Jr. I've been doing comics since the early 90s.
All right, so I'm getting a static now. Do you hear that?
I hear it.
Okay, so now it went away.
Oh, good. He fixed it.
Yeah.
You're going.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I know I've seen Shang-Chi, and Curtis has seen Shang-Chi. Tommy hasn't seen Shang-Chi.
I have not.
Roberta, have you seen Shang-Chi?
I have
What
not.
about you, see, Michael?
No.
Not
They
yet.
don't
Okay.
have,
So-
see, Michael barely has power. He is not going to the movies at the moment.
No, we established last week his kids are in a different room bicycling to keep his power on.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
He's telling them they got a bicycle to keep the cartoons on, but really it's to keep the power going in his house.
My Wi-Fi can barely keep up, so I keep freezing. So,
all right. So Curtis, we gotta tiptoe around story stuff. We would do that anyway. So
I hear it's really good.
Oh, we actually lost C.
I'm here.
Oh, man.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
Oh.
His picture just went away. Okay. So Curtis, before we talk a little bit about it, so I noticed you say something on Facebook that you didn't read many of the comics.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't read the original run. Like, I read when they had kind of like revival stuff. Like, I remember Marvel Comics Presents when they had like Wolverine and Weapon X and all stuff, and they had
Oh yeah.
they had him in. So I remember that and bits
No,
and
were those
pieces. But I
reprints?
wasn't. I think no, it was like a new
Okay.
it was like a newer story, you know. But the original one, I was born in '77, so I think it was like a little just a hair before my time.
Yeah, I think they were like
But there's no excuse
70.
with back issues.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
Did you read it?
No, I did not. The thing about it is, I think I own an issue, but it was one of those, I picked up and it was like, he doesn't have bright spandex on and doesn't fly and shoot ray beams out of his eyes. That was my mentality back in back in the 1970s because I was 10 and 15. And I wanted to see all that, and so I always thought there were some pretty cool covers. Some of the covers that they were pretty cool, and I'll tell you, I didn't realize until watching the credits that it was created by Steve Englehart.
Yeah, isn't
Was
that
it really?
interesting? Yeah.
I did not realize Steve Englehart and Paul Galassi were listed as the creators. So
I didn't know that.
I did not know that either. So I learned something at the movie. So I kind of wanted to establish that before really talking about the anything at all about the movie, because I really wasn't a fan of Shang-Chi. And the other thing is, Shang-Chi never really showed up in any of the. I mean, to my knowledge, he was never on. It looks like Pete's coming back. Pete, can you hear us?
Pete's hustling. He's trying to get it working.
Every day.
What's up?
What is that song? Every day I be hustling.
Oh.
Every day I'm hustling.
Every day he's hustling.
Yeah, so Shang-Chi was never in the circles of the comic books that I read. I mean, he wasn't in the Avengers, he wasn't in the Fantastic Four, or see. So I gotta remind Pete, we can hear him. Did y'all just hear him sigh in exasperation?
That was him.
That was
Yes, I'm
him
gonna say
sighing.
that was him.
Yeah, it was a. I'm sorry, Pete.
So you feel like giving us type of a spoiler about it, or
Well, when Darth Vader shows up, that kind of surprised me, because
Hey,
that was
look,
just
we're
like,
talking about a Disney Marvel movie.
oh,
That's not over the top.
sorry, spoiler.
It's nothing to do with a certain dragon man in there,
Yeah. No, Savage Dragon wasn't in it.
Fang.
Yeah. All right. Pete says he's given up.
I'm sorry, Pete.
I don't know what to suggest to him. So
Does he? Maybe you can suggest. I mean, there's the Discord app. I mean, you can log in through the browser, but you can also download the app specific, and I think the app sometimes works better. That might help him.
I'm going to suggest that to him now.
For everybody watching, just know, Pete's in the UK, and so he is really want to be on here. I mean, it's like 2 a.m. or something crazy over there, 1 a.m. over there. It's rough.
Yeah. Pete's mighty dedicated to get up early every morning. We were just talking before we went live. I'm not convinced I would do that. I might, but to set my alarm and get up get up just for a stream. But Pete does it week in, week out. So we appreciate that, Pete. I'm not sure he's going to read any further. He may have just given up and gone back to bed. I don't know.
Shut his machine off and go to sleep.
Sounds about right.
But so Shang-Chi, so I didn't know that much about him, right, to begin with. Just very kind of a little. So Curtis, if you were to say, I don't know, rate the movie or say anything, what kind of give some of your, because I have some thoughts and feelings, but I don't want mine to get out there first. So
Sure.
You're the kung fu master, so
Yeah.
Well,
I'll
I have one question. What is it about?
Huh? How would we?
Shang-Chi.
I'd say, just kind of the broad strokes without any spoilers. It's really about the Shang-Chi character kind of coming to terms with his past and his family, and I'll leave it at that. Probably
It's an origin story.
nice way to, yeah, it's an origin story.
It's an origin story.
Yeah.
It's Spider-Man #1, right? You read Spider-Man #1, and it's his origin story. You learn about his family, his relationships, his powers. It's the same thing. That's what this movie is. It's an origin story of Shang-Chi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'd say overall, I preface it with that I'm a tough audience for two reasons. Like, one, I'm a comic book guy, and then two, I'm a kung fu guy. So it's like, of course, I'm going to see it very specifically. But I thought it was all right. I thought it was decent. I thought the first half was more to my liking and more in the vein of what I would have liked to see, and it kind of took tonally a different direction for the last half, which really wasn't my bag. And
Right.
so that's kind of the I'd say the best way to explain my thoughts on it. But overall, it was serviceable. I thought it was quite serviceable.
I think BJ and I kind of walked out of the movie kind of thinking the same way. Same thing is that we liked it. It's not, we didn't walk out going, oh well, that was like the Miss Marvel movie. We didn't walk out going, well, that was a waste of time. That was not at all. It's just that we walked out of it going, yeah, that was pretty good.
Marvel.
Lots of folks are
I'm
saying
sorry,
that
that's what I meant. Yeah.
Captain Marvel, please.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I messed up with the title there, but I think what happened for us, we felt like, except for, they tried to I thought they tried to shoehorn in a couple of Marvel things. Otherwise, I really didn't see anything about the movie that made it a Marvel. It was a kung fu movie, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, right? It had all this cool stuff, and it was kind of like that. So it was kind of a cool kung fu movie, but I walked out except for there's this one scene, I'm like, okay, well, they put that in just so we know that, yes, it's part of the Marvel movie, right? So that was kind of my thoughts. I think I was expecting more, some other. So all the other movies, right?
More of an integration with the other characters.
Yes. If you think about all the other movies, when they was first starting, Iron Man, Tony Stark or Iron Man showed up for a cameo in all of them, right? He was kind of that thread that connected them all. And it doesn't have to be Tony Stark, but it could have been anyone to kind of show up, a regular, to kind of show up and tie it all together. But so anyway, yeah, that was I was still apparently we were sitting in the theater, we got there way early, and BJ was on her phone, popped something up, and it had I guess it's all sold a buttload of tickets and made a lot of money this weekend. Y'all see that?
I was going to say that people I'm reading on Facebook and stuff said that they liked it. So
yeah. And don't get me wrong, I liked it.
I've never read any of the books, so I don't really know much about any of it.
Right. Yeah. And so I think what'll happen is you'll go see it and you'll go, oh, that was a cool kung fu movie, souped up kung fu movie, right? Superhero kung fu movie, because he's got these super powered rings. And I saw a lot of people complaining that they weren't rings, right? Mm-hmm. It was really it should have been Shang-Chi and the 10 armbands. Right.
Well, as a kung fu guy, I like what they did with the rings, because the rings actually, if you watch some kung fu movies, they're these iron rings that you use as a form of resistance training, traditionally.
Wow.
So you put these, put them, and the thing that makes them useful is they're not dead weight. In other words, it's different than getting like a Velcro wrist weight and putting it on and just having resistance. When you see those rings on your arm, they collide with one another and create a chain reaction. So when you're punching with those rings and they start to collide, it teaches you how to not only lift weights, but to sink in the force of your strike, because it's a chain reaction. It actually pushes your joints out and teaches you to see your shots in. And I've used them before, and the worst part about it that they don't say is they clang like crazy. They actually hurt your ears, and every time they collide, they pinch the skin on your forearm.
I can see that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're done, you just look all battered. You have all these bruises. But I thought that was a clever way of adopting the idea of the rings.
Yeah.
That the Mandarin and I do know enough about the history that originally Shang-Chi was the son of Fu Manchu, right? The literary character.
Okay. Yeah.
And Marvel had the rights to it, to Fu Manchu, and so that and the David Carradine Kung Fu series, they kind of put the two together. But Fu Manchu, which even though is a famous literary character, is as they would say problematic, as kind of
oh yeah.
Today
in today's culture.
It's kind of, it's kind of like Charlie Chan and stuff like that for Asians. It's there's some stereotypes that go with it, and I think they lost the rights to Fu Manchu. So for those two reasons, they adopted the Mandarin and kind of put him in as a surrogate for that.
They had they had that little. Did you ever see that short with Ben Kingsley in jail? Hail to the King, and they just put it back up on Disney Plus. So they kind of had the idea of bringing the Mandarin back, as opposed to being that term that they had in Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
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 I mean, the 10 rings have been there since Iron Man, so.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought Tony Leung, the actor that played essentially the Mandarin, he's a very, 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 very accomplished actor from Hong Kong. I thought he killed it. I thought he was probably one of my favorite things about the film. He's just an amazing actor, and I thought he did a really good job in it.
Yeah, I thought he did a good job too. And we like the girl who played the girlfriend.
Oh, Aquafina.
Yeah. She's of course she's kind of she kind of plays a character type now, but she's funny. And so we thought she did a good job. Like I said, we liked the film, but when we walked out of it, we were kind of it wasn't the kind of feeling that you get when you walk out of the Avengers or Captain America or something like that. We're kind of like, it was good, but I don't know. I didn't. That makes any sense. So you should all still go see it.
Does it still follow the same formula that all the other origin kind of follow? That Iron Man origin kind of feel to it? I can't remember. There's a formula that all these kind of fall into. That's almost exactly like the Iron Man formula.
It has a redemption arc. It definitely has a redemption arc. In that sense, I would say it's actually closer to Iron Man than any of the other ones, because the character, without spoiling too much, the character is kind of flawed in a way and has some baggage. And so I thought that was kind of refreshing, Yeah. Yeah. But I thought the fascinating thing was, I don't know if you folks have noticed the news part of it, which is that there's multiple things going on that make it interesting from a business standpoint, which was it was specifically geared to ingratiate more of Marvel into mainland China's box office.
Oh, I can see that. Absolutely.
And mainland China won't show it.
What?
They refuse to show it. Well, because
typical.
There's multiple parts to it, but one is they said that their take on it was, well, you have a Chinese actor from Hong Kong, which is China, playing the villain, and you have a North American Chinese actor playing the good guy. So you're saying that the good Chinese, but
yeah,
and then also they said that the actors in it aren't attractive. They said they don't adhere to our standard of beauty, and
really,
and it's somebody with Asian heritage and who's watched a lot of Chinese films. There's a different aesthetic, So I think that was a big part of it, and I can understand from their standpoint why they might say that. So Marvel's probably set to lose a lot of money because they were banking on this, because China's one of the biggest box offices in the world now, and so that's not going on. And then if you folks are familiar with the whole Scarlett Johansson lawsuit.
Yeah,
Marvel right now.
Marvel's in trouble again.
Yeah, so basically, Disney. Some people speculate that Disney may want the movie to fail, or not make the full amount, because the argument that Scarlett Johansson had was that I would have made more money if it was a box office exclusive film and not on Disney Plus.
Oh.
Same day, same release. And so basically, this movie is going to set the precedent where whether or not her argument was strong or not. If the movie does gangbusters in the theater, then Disney she'll have some ground to stand on. If it doesn't meet those goals, then Marvel can say, well, see, you don't have anything to stand on. And the interesting thing is, if you notice, Shang-Chi just come out this weekend. Marvel's already released the trailers for Eternals, and they've already released the trailers for Spider-Man before Shang-Chi even came out, which is very telling.
Interesting.
So who knows?
Yeah, we saw the trailer. So the first trailer for the Eternals that I saw, I was not interested in it at all. I'm like, that looks like crap, Yeah. Now the trailer that they showed during the movie where we went, I'm like, okay, that actually looks pretty decent. And so I hadn't seen it. It's probably been on the internet, but I hadn't seen it. So I don't know if it's a second, third, fourth, whatever trailer. But the first one I saw, I was like, that does not look interesting at all. But the one that we saw today, I'm like, okay, that actually looks kind of cool.
Yeah, I thought that one looked better. Definitely.
Yeah. I think this one they're going to be using to try to corner the India Bollywood market because of Shang-Chi not getting the Chinese market like they wanted to. They're trying to move into the Indian market. It's from what I hear. So,
yeah. I could see that.
With the Eternals, huh?
Yeah. Because I think there's kind of like a Bollywood number in it and everything.
There's a singing number in it, really?
I don't know if they're singing. I know I've seen them dancing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So I will confess, BJ and I, this goes back several years ago. We got on a little Bollywood kick, and some of those are really? Some of those are pretty good. Some they're fun,
You guys are great.
Although I did
cool.
see a trailer for a movie that an Indian movie that I desperately want to see, but I don't know what it is. I just saw it was, I saw this video of these massive armies, and I'm like, "Ooh, that looks really cool," but I don't know what, because it was all in in Hindi, and I'm like, I can't read that. I don't know what that says. I can't understand you.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I want to see it. It was one. It looks so cool. I'd watch it in Hindi without being understanding a word. That's how cool it looked.
That's pretty awesome.
So, yeah, it's funny though to hear us talking about these movies and what we're talking about. We're talking about the Chinese market and the Indian market. We're talking about the Marvel is global now, right? It's not just and it goes back to what I tell people when they say, what was the difference when you were a Malibu editor? I know you've heard the story before, but I'm going to repeat it because it's worth telling. It's like, what was the difference when you were a Malibu editor than when you became a Marvel editor? And the difference is small, but it's big, right? And, when I was a Malibu editor, if you had an idea for a comic, you could come to me and say, I've got this idea for the comic. And if we liked it and you got on with it and everything, then we get to take it to the powers that be and say, hey, here's this comic we want to do. And if their question was this, can we make money? And if you could answer a yes, the chances were pretty good that you would move forward. The same situation when I became a Marvel editor, the question changed just a little bit. It became, how much money can we make? It wasn't just about, we want to do this because we love doing comics. It's like, no, we want to do this because we want to make a whole lot of money.
Well,
and
how would you make that determination? Like, what was the standards by what you come in and you say, oh, it's going to make a lot of money, and they say, okay.
Well, no, believe it or not, I'm simplifying things. Believe it or not, they actually had bean counters that they had this sheet in which they would estimate, here's how much we pay creators, here's how much printing is we think we could sell this many copies, and they would get the marketing department involved to speculate. I mean, it was a long process because you had to involve different people in it. And so the marketing department would come along and say, this is how much we're going to spend on marketing, how much we think, therefore how many orders we think we would get. So, okay, well, this is how much printing was going to be, and then this is how much money we think we're going to make. But it was all on a sheet that they just filled out the numbers, and whenever you took something to them, they had to. That was the answer. That was the answer sheet. That was, if that looked good enough to the powers that be, then you would move forward.
Okay.
Yeah, I wish I still had those. I had one of those in my files for a long time, but I also had Ultraverse Bibles that I carried around with me for a long time, and then it just reached some point in time. I'm like, why am I carrying these around? And I just chunked so much stuff, and then I discovered. I know, and then I discovered eBay, and I'm like, what an idiot I am! I could have sold all this stuff on eBay, right?
There's always going to be a
I just started sharing all that stuff.
Okay, Stephen Brown asked a good question that has not been talked about that much. He says, "How did you come up with the Silverline brand?" I don't think Tommy knows. Anybody see? Did I tell you at MegaCon how the Silverline name came about?
No, I don't think so. I don't think we talked about it.
I don't think Roberta's heard it. Curtis, do you know it?
I haven't heard it.
When I interviewed you for an article recently, and I know it, but I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
Okay, yeah. So, so I'll see if I can keep this story as short as possible. Good question, Stephen. I think I keep this story as short as possible. So, rewind long time ago. I met Stephen Butler in college, and we started to do comics. He and I had swapped rejection letter stories, and he had a stack of them. I had a stack of them, and we were talking about this. And keep in mind, this was probably 87. So this was right on the heels of the success of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And so we decided, hey, we can do this now because, times have changed and we can be indie guys, right? And so we came up along with Mitch Bird, we came up with a company name, and it was Top Comics. And so if you actually go back in 1987 and look at any distributor catalogs, I can't remember the month. I'd have to go back and look. But you'll find solicitations for a Top Comics for Cat and Mouse #1. I still actually have the order forms, the purchase orders from the distributors in a filing cabinet over there. But once we got all the orders, we're like, oh wow, we got to go print comics now, right? We did not have them. We're college students, right? We didn't have the money to go do that. So Stephen and I put on ties, and we went around to all the local. This is in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, where we were in college, right? So Stephen and I put on ties, and we go together to all these banks in Hattiesburg. And we're basically, hey, and we took our purchase orders, right? Hey, here's what we're trying to do. We need to borrow money so that we can print these comic books and ship them. And okay, Tommy knows this. Tommy can vouch. I love Mississippi, okay? I absolutely love Mississippi. But I'm about to break into some stereotypical stuff here that just going to demonstrate my frustration. So in summary, the answers, the responses we got, there's probably, I don't know, about 8 banks in the town, something like that, maybe more. I can't remember. But the response we got is, comic book. You boys want to borrow money to print a comic book. I ain't never given no loan for no comic book before. Can you use a tractor with that? I can give you a loan for a tractor. We don't need a tractor, sir. We need money to print a comic book. Well, I ain't given no loan for no comic book before. I guess I'm going to have to turn you down. And so we could not get the money to print stupid comic books, right?
Yeah, even though it was a for sure turnaround, you would be able to pay it back.
I had purchase orders in my hand, right? I had them in my hand, and I'm like, look, this is an order for books. I just need the money to make it happen so I can send them out, right? Still didn't matter. It just did not matter. So, so we were in an impasse. We're like, okay, what do we do? Well, so we canceled Top Comics, and we took photocopies, and we just, let people know, we need a home for this stuff. And we found through our local comic shop owners, through Terry Wagers of Hub City Comics, we made a connection with an independent comic book publisher in New York, not New York City, just in New York. And they were called EF Graphics. In New York City. At EF Graphics. And so we got to talking, and we were like, well, look, we've done all this work ourselves, and we still want to kind of keep, an identity with ourselves. And he was like, no, that's cool. He said, but we can't really do EF Graphics and Top Comics because Top Comics is going to sound like the other. So we changed it. So Stephen and I sat down one day, and we're like, well, what are we? What encapsulates it? Well, we're trying to make comic books like the Silver Age, right? Keep in mind, this was the 1980s, right? We're trying to make comics like the Silver Age because that's our favorite time of comics. That's when comics were exciting, and so we're going to be the Silver Line of comics, right? And so that's how the Silverline name came about. Now, as times have kind of changed, probably it's more the Bronze Age in actuality that we're looking at, but we're not going to change it to the bronze line, right? So Silverline just still sounds really cool. So yeah, that was that's the story of how Silverline came to be. And what happened is we went from being a publisher to being a packager. And so the first iteration of Silverline from 88 to about 90, I guess the last one was around 92. We were a packager, which just meant that we put packages together, complete comics together, and moved those to publishers. At the time, it was Eternity, Caliber Press, Adventure, Airsail, of course. Adventure, Airsail, and Eternity all ended up being Malibu imprints. And then it just kind of ceased to be until the whole Marvel stuff was over, and then I brought Silverline back, and I started publishing then as Silverline. So, good question, Stephen. I appreciate that. Yeah, I haven't told that story too terribly much. Steven says, "Well,
packaging?"
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, was packaging something common at that time, and is it something that's still around, or was that unique to the industry at that time?
It was not terribly common. No. I would say it's probably more common today just because of technology and what we don't have to sit in offices. People can put stuff together and send it into a publisher. I don't really know anyone else that does that, to be honest with you. So I'm not going to say because I would hate to say we were the only ones that did it. And well, what about this or this or this? I don't know anyone who else that did it. So we were really kind of like, not really agents, but because an agent just a representative but we put the whole thing, we were kind of like freelance editors / agents, right? We were the editors because we put it together, agents because then we found a home for it. And that's usually what we would do. We would put a project together, and then we would approach one of the publishers and say, "Hey, we've got this project. Are you interested in publishing that?" And then they would either tell us yes or no.
That's cool.
Robbie, you started to say?
Hear the story. Oh, I was saying I only knew some of that story, so I'm glad to hear the reason for the name.
Yeah.
And because I knew you from the imprint beginnings.
Right. Yes, you did. Way back when.
Yep.
The one thing that Roland didn't say was one of the reasons why they didn't get the money to do the thing is because they had the mullets from hell going in with into the banks with the full on mullets and stuff, and they're like, no. They saw you guys coming, and they're like, no. I don't care what you got to say.
Tommy, if there was a video that
I had the same mullets. We all know I had the same hair. So, but.
Tommy, you're giving me this visual that the guy was actually reading comic books, the banker, and as soon as he saw the mullet, he just put the comic book inside the desk and adopted a very southern accent.
He slid it under his desk.
Yeah. Oh man, BJ kill me.
So anyway, that was a great story.
Thank you. Well, one of the things. So I tell you, one of the things I like about that story is that there's so many people who, and I probably see some of this just because I teach now, and there's so many of them who think all I got to do is I'm going to finish this college and then I'm going to jump right in and I'm going to work professionally. It's like, well, maybe, but probably not. It's going to be, it's such the rare bird that you literally jump into doing that thing that you love. There's blood, sweat, and tears. What I tell people. I graduated college in '88. I worked as a bookstore manager with a college degree from 88 until 92, but what I was doing is I was going to the bookstore, I was working 40 hours a week, and then I was coming home and I was working another 30 hours a week at least, trying writing comics and trying to break into the comic book industry. And so all of this stuff, it didn't, it's not like it just happened overnight. You just all these, this, blood, sweat, and tears you got to put into it. And we tend to be an impatient society. We want it, what is it from Willy Wonka? I want it and I want it now.
Exactly.
Who was that? Veruca, wasn't it?
Salt.
Yeah.
And then when you finally do get it, you realize there's not as much money as you thought there was in it.
Yeah.
You want to get out?
Wait a minute. I was around for the image days. Those guys were making things.
Yeah. Yeah, they were.
I was promised.
I spent 2 or 3 years making comics, and then my Netflix deal comes through, right?
Right. Yeah. Oh man. Those kind of, I don't know, those kind of publishers. I there's room for everybody, but boy, those publishers irritate me. When I see them, I'm like, this is just a pitch for your Netflix show. This is not you didn't try to make a comic book. You tried to make this is a first episode of a TV show. I hope he's not listening because I'm about to talk, and I'm not going to mention his name, but I told somebody once before, I said, to me, it's an insult when someone reads your comic. Okay. Let me when someone reads my comic and then they say, I loved your comic, it felt like I was watching a TV show. That's an insult to me.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay. I know they mean well because they start off, I loved your comic, right? So I know that they're thinking they're telling me something good, but I'm like, no, my comic is not a TV show. It's not. It's a comic book. It's supposed to be different than a TV show. I don't want you to feel like you're watching a TV show. I want you to feel like you're reading a comic book.
Nobody says this and goes, man, I felt like I went to an art museum. What's the deal? Like, wait a minute.
Right.
I feel like I was reading Dickens. You don't get that. That's like, a movie. Oh, okay. So I go to a play and tell them, oh, wow, I love your play. It was just like watching TV.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just not the same. No.
Yeah, so
I was going to say, like how C. Michael was saying, there's no money in it, and it's kind of funny. Like, and of course, I won't name names either because mum's the word. But like at Malibu, especially as far as writers for the Ultra Sign, some really top talent writers, and you always got to see them when there would be a free meal, at the office that day. All of a sudden, these amazing writers that wrote these great books at DC and Marvel would show up for the free meal, and there you go. There's your sign, right?
Now it explains things, doesn't it? Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Haven't eaten in months.
Yeah. I won't say who it is, but Roland will know. And Roberto, like, why is that guy still wearing that same black members only jacket every time he comes by? And you know who I'm talking about, but I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
Well, and it's just what it is.
It is.
You gotta. We didn't expect to be rock stars, but I think you always hope that maybe it'll turn out a little bit,
yeah, you're right. I think
like
especially
stardom.
Well, and I think especially when you kind of rub elbows with them, because when Image happened, those guys were in the offices. And not all the time, and it's not like they hung out there, but it wasn't unusual to see these guys in the offices. So it's like, we were rubbing elbows with the rock stars of comics. And so I think there was certainly kind of that, hey, it could happen to me, if I do this and I do that. I mean, look at these guys, right? And what is it? Heck, Rob Liefeld got a Blue Jean commercial. What the heck?
He sure did.
But I will say this about the Image guys, and as I've noticed as I've gotten older in different industries, is people have the problem when they go, I'm only concerned with the creative side and I don't want to deal with the business end. And you will get paid accordingly if that's the case. The thing that happened with those images is they said, and especially McFarlane and Liefeld, they said, I'm going to take time and I'm going to be interested in the business end. And that's why they got paid. It wasn't because they were talented. There were people that were as talented or far more talented than even them. I know that sounds like sacrilege, but they decided they decided to take interest in the business, and so the business took interest in them. You know,
Has anybody listened to Rob's podcast?
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? It's fascinating.
He even went into his own feud with Todd McFarlane and everything. It's of course he comes out smelling all right, but
of course.
but that was the thing. And Todd McFarlane's been sued like how many times? I don't think you have fingers for the amount of times Todd McFarlane's been sued. But he pivoted. He went to his toy line. He only had that one book. He only had Spawn, but like Jim and Rob were putting out, and of course I know multiple books.
Yeah.
So that helped them a lot on that issue. And a lot of times the writers were getting more money than the artists were getting, because the writers could sit down and write more than the artists could put out. So they could write 2 or 3 scripts. No offense, Roland. They could write 2 or 3 scripts in a month and put out two or three different comics and get paid from that. But an artist usually could only put out one book. I mean, because not everybody's Jack Kirby,
right?
And they weren't getting as much. So
I don't know the rates at Image, but I do know the rates at Marvel, and I think there might be some misconceptions because in general the artist got paid about twice as much as a writer.
Well, and that was the thing, because what you were dealing with here, though, was creator-owned IP, is what I'm talking about.
Okay. Like, I don't know what they paid.
No, because I think last time I checked with Image, it was about 40% of whatever you made on a whole that you were paying to Image. Plus, you had to do your own marketing and stuff too.
Right.
But people don't seem to understand that. There's a lot more to that than what you think.
Yes.
But and that was coming from them. So they said, you had all these writers, they were able to put out 2 or 3 books and 2 or 3 IPs, and they were getting money from that. But the artists were only getting a certain amount from that. So
and it's absolutely without certainty or with certainty that a writer can produce probably 4 times the amount. I know Jerry. So Jerry Jones, who I know that his name doesn't get mentioned in many circles these days, but at one point in time, Jerry Jones could write some good stuff. But one of the things, and Tommy, you probably been part of these conversations because we used to have them in Mississippi, I think. Jerry, if he was writing 3 books a month, it was pretty good. But once he made that leap to 4 books a month, it seemed like everything turned to crap. Right. It's just like that was just like 1 book too many for him. And I tell people that, when I was writing full time, I could sit down and here's what people forget though. Right. I could sit down and type a 22, 24 page script in 3 days. I could generally produce about 8 pages of script a day. And now that's a full script. Okay. But that's assuming that I've already put in all the hours outlining the story, breaking it down into pages, getting the characters and all that kind of stuff built up, doing all the pre-work, right, before actually sitting down to type the story out into a panel by panel breakdown. So about 1 per week is a good speed, I think, for most. And if a writer tells you they can't get a script done in a week, well, no, you're right, because here's the deal: he's doing it full time. Now, if Tommy says I can't do a script this week, well, Tommy puts in 60 hours in the office or more, and he also does his own. So he's got other stuff going on. He's got a full-time job that's not writing a comic book, right? And so when a full-time writer tells you they can't write a script in a week, then they probably ought to find a new career.
Before we continue, does anybody want to jump on and do some art? I've been on for a while. Roberta or
I don't mind, but I'm picking up where I left off last week with Cat and Mouse page if you want it.
Sure. Sounds good to me.
Let me hop off.
Mm-hmm.
Brett, you make that change? Excuse me. Brett. Okay.
Where do I put the window? God damn it, moving stuff around.
All you do is just go live, right? Oh, you mean for your own self? All you got to do is just go live.
I gotta find the button that says. There it is.
There it is.
I think you got it. Yay! There she is.
It's so good. I love that eye.
Yeah, the eye's so cool, right?
It was really cool.
I can't see it. I gotta get on Facebook to see it.
Oh, it's looking good.
Yeah, it does look good.
She's got a gem for one eye, and I need to know.
That make it glow.
How does that work in real life? Like, how is that?
This is not real life. It's a comic book.
Well, if it's a glass eye, I could see that, you know.
Yeah, like what does the world look like when it's faceted like that?
Have you ever seen?
It'd just be miserable, right?
What were you gonna say, Ro?
I was gonna say, have you ever seen the movie The Fly?
Mm-hmm.
You know how it shows his perspective that one time. Yeah.
Yeah, just briefly.
What were you gonna say? See?
Oh no, I was just thinking of one thing that always stuck out to me was The Last Action Hero. Yeah, I know. The villain had the happy face eye and the target eye, like he pushed on his eye at the time.
That was so cool.
It was. As sad as that is, but it was.
Who did we lose there? I heard a screen.
I think somebody left.
Shadow Ghost.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right.
So we're good.
Yeah. So, all right. So one of the things I kind of wanted to talk about the last, or in this part. What time is it? I think. Yeah. Okay. So we've talked about death in comics before. And I see, and I'm gonna, I don't know how I can say this without really sounding so cold-hearted, but I see celebrities, I hear about celebrities die, and then I see people posting right and left, oh, this one really hits me, and I'm like, wait, you knew this person, and I see these people posting about, how and please, so again, I'm not trying to take death lightly. I think anyone who dies, someone's going to be affected. But I see all of these people post, and I see some people posted multiple times about multiple celebrities when they died. I'm like, wait, you knew all these people? Every single one of these touched you? So I think I want to talk a little bit about maybe celebrity deaths that affected you, and how did they affect you, and that kind of thing. And when I say celebrity deaths, because we work in comics, I'm going to include comic book guys, right? I'm going to include the Stans and the Jacks and that kind of stuff. So jump in.
Well, elephant in the room is Stan.
Yeah. Yeah.
We knew it would happen someday, but it is just one of those things that just the knowledge that he's gone and not guiding the rest of his, all of the things that he's been creating now.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess I feel bad that, there wasn't more coming, but what can you expect from somebody too? I think there's that unrealistic expectation for people.
Yeah. Yeah. See, you were jumping in?
Well, the thing about Stan was he was kind of that link to the past. He was kind of like, one of the few, if not the last link to that age that really brought the comic book to where it is today. And so when you saw his death, yeah, you knew it was coming. You waited for it and everything, but it was still a loss on the sense of I would say more of the sense greater than a celebrity sense, more of just a passing of time sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So an era gone, I guess.
Yeah.
Kind of like World War II vets passing away, things like that. But I'm trying to say it's the exact same thing. Please don't misunderstand that at all. But
yeah, well, it's hard to talk about. It can be difficult talking about death without sometimes people misunderstanding it because who was the guy who just recently died? Was it Ed Asner?
Asner, yep.
Yeah, and I saw several people post it, and I'm like, okay, it's sad, but I haven't cried, not a bit.
I'll post something like rest in peace or something like that. If it's somebody that I knew or grew up, you grew up with. I grew up with Ed Asner, in various things I didn't even know he was in some stuff.
Yeah,
but I knew who he was. My mother, knew who he was from Mary Tyler Moore Show and onward and stuff like that. But that's about it. I'm not. All respect to his family, I didn't really shed a tear.
Right, yeah.
He's 92 years old. I thought he was older than that. But still. But George Burns, but
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like, of course you may not know them personally, but I think there's different levels, right? There's the artist and then there's the persona, right?
Right.
And so the artist, like how many of us actually knew Stan, even if some of us met him, few and far in between.
Met him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the one thing that was very obvious with him over time is he understood the persona. There's that saying that if you have a role to play and you play the role, then you play the role well. If you fall under the assumption that you are the role, you play the role poorly. In other words, if somebody thinks, like, he was very obvious that he understood that he had this persona that he had to live up to. And when you hear time and time again, for everybody that met him, myself included, he lived up to that because he was very aware of the responsibility of that and how to live up to that.
With great power comes great responsibility. Exactly.
And when you see, like, the stupid celebrities, it's basically they think no matter what they do, they are that role, And that's when you see the stuff like, you don't know who I am, or, that kind of stuff. So I can see people getting personally affected because the art speaks to them, right? There's that part of it, but it's not the same as family or friends, definitely.
Right.
And I think that people get confused between the two. What's the reality? What's the persona?
Yeah.
So that's my take on it.
So I've only ever really been affected by. So I remember the first person I ever knew who cried over a celebrity, right? I was in, I think, 7th grade when Elvis Presley died. And there was a guy I went to school with who just cried that whole day. I mean, he was just kind of, in tears that day at school. And of course, my first thoughts were like, well, yeah, I liked him too, but I didn't know him, and I don't get why you're crying. It's sad that he's gone. But then for those of you who know me, this next statement will be crystal clear. But in 1992, I shed a tear when Freddie Mercury died. Because I had been such an avid Queen fan. I knew every guitar lick, every vocal, every drum beat to all the songs up until Hot Space, and then that piece of crap was not worth being called Queen, but that's beside the point. But even to this day, comics excluded, he's the only celebrity that's really affected me. And I sat and watched the kind of the news that day, and of course then they did the big special for him. But he's the only celebrity that ever affected me like that. But I think that's because I was younger, and the music had affected me as in my important years, in my teen years, so so much.
So it's really about you. Where it comes down to it, it's like it's a symbol, right?
It is.
No, but I'm
No,
not
no,
being
no,
a
she's right,
jerk about it.
yeah,
I
no.
mean, it's like it's what they represent to you, not who they were for real.
Oh,
Yes.
It is
Yeah.
how,
Yeah.
part of you. Part of you.
Yes. Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
You miss.
absolutely.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh no! What I was gonna say is when I was working on a film project in Hollywood, we got to meet a bunch of different actors and actresses and stuff like that, and some of them were like legit, like, oh, you are exactly like the character you played. Like when we were working with Michelle Rodriguez, she's like exactly like the character she plays. She's just playing herself with a script. But we meet other actors, and you'd be like, oh, the only reason I like you is because somebody else put words in your mouth. When you make up your own words, I can't stand you.
Right.
and it's like, but it's when somebody's a symbol for something inside you, that's the loss that you feel, right? It's part of yourself that's lost, I guess, but yeah.
That's what I was saying. I think maybe with the musician, it makes even more sense, though, that you would be affected by their death, considering that a lot of times musicians are putting more of themselves, not only in their performances, but especially if they write their own music. That's stuff that relates to you on that level. So it is more personal. Like, for instance, when David Bowie passed, I don't like David Bowie. Yeah, I like David Bowie. But for me, it was like, okay, David Bowie is gone, and he was always there.
Yeah.
He was, and now that's not going to be there anymore. But
Yeah.
if we have music from David Bowie, it's stuff that was locked in a vault somewhere. It's not going to be there anymore. Same thing with Prince, and those things.
Yeah, but you do have stuff with Prince locked in a vault that.
Oh my God!
Years and years. And,
if you believe the rumor, Prince has been dead for years, and it's been this Jehovah's Witness guy that's Prince impersonator for years and years. But yeah, it will. And I think for musicians and stuff being affected by a celebrity's death at that instance, and I think that makes a lot of sense. I can see that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about what all you guys are saying and stuff. But for me, the celebrity, the deaths of like the comic creators and the stuff. If I kind of bring it back to me being personal with my family and all that kind of stuff. And I just don't. I'm affected when these folks die, but if I don't like I know you guys. If something happens to you guys, which that's God forbid,
family.
Yeah, I'm gonna be more affected. But some of the comic creators that I don't know or the movie star, I'm gonna feel I'm upset. That they passed and all that kind of stuff. Ed Eisner and all that kind of stuff. But then I start to feel I'm like I'm feeling bad about these guys, but. Do I feel as bad as when my grandmother died? I'm like, well, no, hell no, I don't feel as bad. And so then I start to go, maybe I shouldn't be feeling such. I should be a remorse that they passed on, but I just don't. I just don't feel as touched like you're saying that you see people on Facebook and stuff, and they're just physically sounding like they're just falling out and stuff. I'm like, you don't even know these people. How are you?
Yeah.
Why are you so? I understand that you love these guys and other than as much as I do and stuff, but that's not your mom.
Right.
That's not your brother. That's not your best friend from high school that you actually really know. These are just people that you think that you know. And so that's to me it's I know it sounds really cold about that, but to me it
I'm kind of the same way though.
Yeah, I'm going to be upset with people that I know a lot more than people that I know from a movie because I really don't. And I've told you this plenty of times before, Roland and stuff. I don't really want to know people that I watch on TV. I don't want to know their politics. I don't want to know. I don't mean this in a bad way. I'm like, just get up there and dance for me. I'm paying you.
Until then, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm giving you the money. That's your job. Your job is supposed to be to entertain me. I'm sorry. Just like my job when you're buying my comic, it's nice that you guys are that care about the. Of course, people are watching the show, so they're knowing us a little more. But you don't know me. I could be just the biggest jerk in the world. I am. But I just don't feel like like we were talking about David Bowie. So I love David Bowie, and Prince, and You know, even though Michael Jackson's kind of weird, I love Michael Jackson and stuff, but he's like, oh, I'm sorry that he passed away. I'm sure people was really upset, but you know,
I'm sure. Yeah.
My wife's over here telling me that I'm rambling on. So,
so the next time, this is for everybody. The next time you see Tommy at a show, I gotta wait until he's listening. So the next time you see Tommy at a show and you go and he starts to talk to you about a book, just give him the money and say, just dance for me.
That's my job. You know? Yeah, it's like, you know, that's what you're supposed to be. I don't want to know about your politics. Just don't make me hate you. You know, get up there and do your acting stuff and entertain me. That's what your job is. You know, you can't do that, then you find something else to do. That's your job. Your job's supposed to be up there and entertain me. I'm paying you money. Don't make me hate you.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, because what's going to happen?
It's going to be the eye again. She's telling me to shut up.
What's up, Nay?
They're telling you hello. She's waving. She's like,
Jackson Reddick says Norm Brayfogel's passing hit me. We've been chatting on his Facebook page for a while beforehand. So,
that's
yeah.
personal.
Yeah, that's personal. Yeah,
right.
It is kind of personal.
I guess that's where I'm getting at. It's a personal thing. You know, some of these folks, just because I like their music and stuff.
Right.
You know, they're not my buddy.
Right.
So I put my friends in a little bit better of a position than just the folks that I really. I mean, I could love their music and stuff and their acting and all that stuff, but they're not my buddy. You know, I would hate that they would be up in heaven because everybody I know, of course, is good. And they went to heaven. They're going to be looking down and say, Thomas,
we know different people.
Well, we're assuming that everybody that feels that way and makes these statements about their favorite celebrities has real friends and has a good family connection. Right?
Yeah, you're right.
No, I'm serious.
You're saying the people that cry the most had
there's some people
potentially
that have,
lost in their personal life.
Yes.
Yeah. So in that way, they're a surrogate for that, and so. But I will say, just kind of talking about Facebook and stuff like that's funny because there came a point as I was teaching martial arts that I saw less and less of my students on Facebook, and then I started realizing Facebook's for the older crowd, right? And the funniest part is just the part that I always heard: when you get older, all you talk about is your health and people dying, and as the Facebook crowd gets older, it's always.
No.
Have you looked at Facebook? It's always like, oh, I have this health problem. Oh, this person passed. Oh, my leg hurts, and it's just over, and you're like, oh, it's happening. Like I see. It's like there's no young people that want to be on Facebook. Yeah. It's like you know. So
well, and then if you go on Twitter, it's just people. It must be the elementary school kids because all they're doing is throwing mud and yelling at each other. You know, calling each other names. It's like what the heck.
Well, activism's easy until you have to start paying bills, and then it becomes really hard.
Yeah. Well, it's also really easy to call someone nasty names in front of the computer, but I guarantee you, 95% of those people, if you're standing face to face, they're not gonna call you that name. Yeah, some of them will, but 95% of them, they're not gonna call you those nasty names standing right in front of you. They still might not say nice things to you, but they're not going to speak quite the same way they do on Twitter.
Oh yeah, keyboard warrior, you know.
That's right. Jackson says, by the way, hello Jackson. For those of you who don't know, Jackson's longtime Silverline artist. I am working very, very hard to get him. He's doing some stuff. He's dipped his toe. He's knocked the rust off. Got a few things that you'll be seeing soon. Tommy kind of suggested that there's something special coming up. We'll get to see Jackson in that. But I keep throwing the hook out and trying to get him back and get him to do something regular. You know, the problem with Jackson, he got old. I can't get him to commit to stuff now. You know. But Jackson said. Yeah. Jackson says, when Betty White passes, I'm going to bawl my eyes out.
You know, that might be one because she's just so sweet. You feel like that she's your grandmother kind of a thing.
Yeah, that's
well, okay.
It's been there forever.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
You go back and you see White. What was that show she had? Elizabeth.
Golden. Oh.
No, Black and White. The first show that she was on was Elizabeth or something. She played. It was kind of a housewife type role. She actually lost the show because she refused. She let a black person dance on the show that they told her not to do, and she did it. And
wow,
kicked her off. Yeah.
So
this was
goes
before
a long way back
then.
then.
But she was Black and White. Yeah.
Wow.
She was young. She was very young. I can't remember what. I'll see if I can find it. But it was Elizabeth. She's been around for years.
Yeah, a long time. Yeah. Jackson says he's almost finished with the latest bit. That's good to hear. Aaron Humphreys, what's up, Aaron? He says it is much easier to point out the problem than point out a solution. Yeah, and I think that's got to be a Twitter reference because I think that's absolutely kind of what happens on Twitter. I have the theory a little bit too that musicians and this could be I'm willing to listen to the argument that's the same for actors, but I kind of think that musicians and music speaks to you in a way that film and television does not. Because we all have that music that we listen to that makes you think. I know that for a handful of years, right after Brett was born, my dad would point out songs to me, and he would say, and he'd kind of come up to me with a kind of a slight sniffle, not quite, it wasn't crying, but it was kind of a slight sniffle. He's like, "This song always made me think about you," and then it would be keep it between the line, about a father telling a son when he's learning to drive, keep it between the lines. Right. It's some country song. I don't know what it was. Somebody might know it, but it was basically, you're going off and you've got your freedom, but I'm always going to be there. Keep it between the lines. Right. And it had deeper meanings than that. But I realized that this was a song that kind of the song touched my dad. And I think that we can have artists. And I think it was C that says, that they put a lot of themselves in it because they write their own stuff. And so we get a glimpse of them. And so when it touches us, I remember, so you all know Queen's Somebody to Love, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was my theme song in high school. Right. I'd be like, can you find me somebody to love?
Oh, boy.
So, that's funny.
It makes perfect sense because we all go through a lot of the same experiences, right? Yeah. And as artists and as creatives, I think we kind of are used to finding a way to express ourselves, but for us, not everybody can articulate that, right? And so, when you hear a song like that, that's why mixtapes, back in the day were such a big deal. This is how I can convey what I'm feeling. I can't express it in my own words. But I have these 12 bands and musicians that are experts at conveying exactly what I feel about you. And so,
yes,
and music is the soundtrack to your life. I mean, that's the cool thing. I mean, you listen to a song and you can go back in time to when you were learning to drive or when you went on your first date or all that stuff, So yeah, I definitely, music is very important that way.
Yeah. There are still some songs that I hear and I can, it triggers smells. I hear a song and I can smell that, right? I can smell something, Yeah.
That Betty.
Hopefully, they're good smells.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, they are. Yeah. They're good smells.
This truck stop I was at once.
Thinking about a concert that he went to, those smells.
Oh. But that Betty White show was called Life with Elizabeth, and it first aired in 1953.
Wow!
And she had to be in her 20s.
Hey.
So
I gotta admit, I've never heard of that one.
Oh yeah, it actually had Bryan Cranston's father in it. I didn't know that.
Really?
Until I saw it. But yeah. But yeah, so she's been around for a long time. So yeah, when she passes, that's going to be a lot of people kind of upset about that one.
Multi-generations, right?
Yeah.
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 Multiple generations. It's weird. She's she's managed to kind of keep herself relevant even to younger audiences, right?
Yeah, surprisingly, right?
I think it's because she comes off as being very down to earth. A lot of times I did hear that she was actually like Rose, and that's one of the reasons why B. Arthur didn't like her.
Oh, really?
Much, really. And so, but I think kind of having that, and which makes sense. Not to ramble like Tommy. I don't have my wife going in. But which makes sense. I heard Harrison Ford at one point and say the key to being a good actor was empathy. I think that she expresses a lot of empathy, so she was able to kind of she is, I guess, still able to take that empathy and be a relatable character whenever she plays. Because she could be a hard butt, and she could be such a sweetest person too. So
yeah, I think that's why I would make a terrible actor.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I used to think I could, and then I realized I can't.
Yeah.
No.
Did you ever hear that? Was it about Jimmy Carter and his mom in The White Lie, which is kind of like, I'm just saying, relating to acting, kind of like faking. I don't know if it's true or not, but it was basically that. I guess Jimmy Carter was saying that he never lied. I guess that was one of his big points when he was running for office. And so a reporter went to his mom and was like, well, has your son ever told a lie? And she goes, no, he's never told a lie. She goes, well, come on. Really? And mom said, oh, yeah, maybe a little white lie. And the reporter said, what do you mean? And she goes, when you came into my house and I said it was nice to meet you?
That's a polite society lie.
That's great, right?
I hadn't heard that. That's great. So let's shift a little bit to comics. So are there any comic people who's I mean, Roberta's already mentioned Stan. I think that's a given. Are there any others that touched you? And if you had the chance to sit down with any of them, who might it be, and what might you ask them?
It's a good one.
It's a big list, right?
I would say. I mean, somebody mentioned Norm Brayfogle, and I would be curious. I mean, because I always thought he was one of the most unique and really great artists. He was an illustrator, but he had his own style. But he did that series for Malibu called Metaphysique for the Brevier line, which was like way out there, and like,
right.
And the thing that was fascinating about it is if you delve into that New Age territory, and I have sometimes, you realize that he was coming from a place of authenticity. It wasn't just something like random. I mean, he either really researched it or he really had some pretty out there experiences. And that's what I would be asking him about. And I think that was the book that he left Prime, which was, to me, some of his best work ever in all of comic books was and the best, and I'll be honest, one of the best comic books Malibu ever published was Prime when he was on it. And he left that for that book. Yeah, it was an amazing book, and he left it for that, and I'd be curious to ask him about that because obviously it was very important to him. So that would be my question. Why?
Why? Anybody else? Was that the mic drop?
You did it, Curtis. You did it.
It's the Apple Pencil drop. Just
I have an apple. I have a pen.
Oh gosh. No, the thing about a lot of the artists that I would want to ask questions to are still alive.
Yeah.
I guess there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Maybe I would like to know how was it Mobius?
Yeah.
Kind of saw the world in the way that he did, to where his line work is pretty impressive. Even with his shading in his line work, it was just what prompted that, I guess, would be a question I would ask. How did you see the world that way? What prompted you to see the world that way? Because for an artist, I can look at something and see it in an art style, I guess, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like, drawn in a certain way or whatever. Now, I might not be able to mimic it, but I could see it.
Right.
And that's, I just kind of wonder what made him see the world that way, I guess would be. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Did you ever see there was a documentary with Moebius and Alejandro Jodorowsky, the filmmaker, who also did stuff with Moebius. There was a French documentary on YouTube where he talks about Moebius, and I didn't realize that he spent a lot of time in Mexico growing up.
Really?
Yeah, and that's why you see this attachment to this kind of shamanistic approach, and the desert is always showing up, because that was his time in Mexico, was going through the deserts of Mexico. I had no idea that was his
Now
influence.
that makes sense. Now I could see that.
Right?
I could see that being the reason. I could. Yeah, I have to see that. I haven't seen it. No.
Yeah.
Oh my
I'll try
God,
and dig
I
it
have
up.
to
I'll
ask
send it to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be interesting.
Somebody that I didn't get to meet him very well, but I did already. So, but it was Roland knows I've always liked Bernie Wright's and stuff. So I got to meet him at a show, and he was, for some reason, I don't know why, he I don't know if it was his, I don't know, remember exactly, it was his wife, girlfriend, somebody or another. They knew about my Zomboid book, and they came to me to get a copy of it, and this is the weirdest thing, and I don't think it was him, but it was his wife. But so I chatted with him a little bit, but this was before he passed away, and luckily through Jimmy Palmiotti, I got to ink some of his stuff. It wasn't that great of stuff, is when it's all of his problems he started having, that's. I'm trying to think of some other folks and stuff, but this was, I did get to meet him before, it was at a show. It was at a show that nobody went to. It was just the weirdest thing. So I got to just talk to him as much as I wanted to. I didn't bug him or anything, but I got some of his some original sketches from something or another that he was doing at the time. But no, the project that I inked.
You got original Bernie Wrightson sketches?
Yeah, somewhere.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, why did I not know that?
They're just scribble scratchy, nothing, and it could have looked like something that I did. So it's nothing really to. But I know what it is. But
right, yeah, that's all that matters.
It was just he when he was doing his layouts, he would just do all these scribble scratches and stuff, and then $20 for a scribble scratch. Okay, so I bought a couple of them, but it could be anybody. It could, as loose as they were, it could have been your child or whatever did it, because it was just not even layouts. It was just scribbles. But he was still selling them for a bunch of money. But no, what was that book? It was a Punisher book that he did for Marvel.
Bernie Wrightson did a Punisher book?
Yeah, he did. It wasn't. It was weird. It was weird.
Wow.
Yeah.
Stephen Brown says, "I don't know what I would ask, but I would want to sit down with Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko."
Yeah.
What would you ask them? Think about that. That's kind of an interesting thought. What would you ask if you could? If they were. I mean, if you could. Regardless if they're still around now, or if you're able to ask them some sort of, mystically ask them a question, what would you ask them? That's kind of interesting.
Not with Tommy's Ouija boards, we've discovered. Right.
Because I will cheat. Yeah.
Have you folks ever seen that interview with Steve Ditko? They did it was like a video back in the late 80s, early 90s, where they interviewed a whole bunch of comic book artists, and Steve Ditko was one of them. And you don't see him on camera. Yeah, and it is out there. He just hauls off on his whole view of his character, Mr. A, and his view of life, and he's like waxing poetic, and it's just like this whole it sounds like a stream of consciousness, kind of like beatnik poetry. And he just goes on and on and on. It's fascinating, but it's kind of crazy too, which is what makes it so awesome. But yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, any kind of questions I would have, a lot of people, they say, well, I would ask them, how did they come up with that idea? Well, you know what? I don't want to know those things, because,
it'd be more cooler just to hang out and chit chat about the local, the nowadays stuff, what are you watching on TV? Just to get to know them. Yeah.
So that's what I would want to know, that kind of thing. So what do you read on your own? What do you like to read? What do you read science fiction? Do you read mystery? Do you read autobiographies? What are you reading? Not. I mean, we create, so I don't really need to ask somebody how they came up with ideas, right? But I want to know, what do you watch? What do you consume? What do you, how do you spend your time when you're,
Price is
and of
Right
course,
marathons.
say again.
Price is Right marathons.
That'd be neat to know.
Well, yeah, I think so. But and Tommy remembers this. Mitch Bird, the guy who did the first volume of Cat and Mouse, did a whole bunch of other stuff, right? I can remember, Mitch used to draw a lot, but the way he would draw would be sitting in front of the television, and he would have his drawing board literally right in front of the television would be right in front of him, but he almost never looked up, right? He was drawing like this, and you could see him occasionally. He'd look up, just keep drawing, look up, just keep drawing, right? And I always wondered, because writers can't do that, but I always wondered, is like, how do you? Because he can always tell you about movies. If you ever talk to Mitch, right, he could talk to you about movies right and left.
Yeah.
But I always wondered, but you don't watch them, you're drawing. How do you see them, right?
I'd like to know how he does that, because I can't.
I do that all the time. I mean, for me, and the whole reason I still do stuff is I remember being a kid watching Saturday morning cartoons with paper, sitting in front of the TV with the crayons, right? And I'll be honest with you, recently when I started really getting back into drawing, I would just lay a couple times. With this tablet here, I would lay down on the floor and I'd be watching
like a kid.
TV. Yeah, but I'm in my 40s now, so like after like 2 months of that, my back started hurting. I was like, I gotta start sitting up because my back is killing me. But
I thought you were gonna say after 2 hours, you were gonna have to say, "Help me get up."
I'm falling and I can't get up.
Yeah.
But to me, like, one of the most beautiful things in the world is a blank piece of paper. And if you're a creative person, you understand that, like, there is infinity in that little square piece of paper. And that's the most beautiful thing. And to everybody else, they may just look past it. But when I see a blank piece of paper, oh my gosh, the things I see, it's just trying to get it on that paper. That's the hard part. That's the part that kills me, So.
And the cool thing is, it all comes from, right here in your brain,
Yeah.
You look at that and your brain envisions all of it. I find that very cool.
Yeah, there's some things in here that will never go on paper. Let's just put it
Well, yeah. So what else? Anybody else have any thoughts about what you might ask somebody?
For me, it's just conversations. Like, it is fascinating when you get to meet somebody that you're a fan of as a creative, and if you actually befriend them or get to talking with them, and then things will leak out when you hear about their life story, and then you'll start to piece it together. That's, to me, the most fascinating thing is those kind of details. Frank Miller, is one that I mean, maybe he's a pretty dark guy, but I would be very curious to find out a lot about him, because he's one of my favorite creators of all time.
Yeah,
hands down.
Yeah. What did he read growing up?
Yeah. The real Grimms.
When he's from like Wisconsin, right? Philip K. Dick. Wow. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I'm just making that up. I have no idea what he read.
Oh.
So, but yeah, I'm just thinking gritty.
Yeah.
Yeah, we believe you.
Personally, I subscribe to Don't Meet Your Heroes. Honestly, because you make them bigger in your head than they really are.
And they may disappoint you.
Well, like 92, 93, I love Todd McFarlane, obviously, because I was into comics and I was 12, 13 years old, and that was all going down. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
Yeah, it's okay.
but then when you see it and you look more and more into it, it's like, okay, I can admire some of the stuff he did, but I think he might be a jerk in real life. So I don't know. I do not know. I don't want to find out.
Right.
That way.
Well,
but go ahead.
I think you've heard me talk before about Todd McFarlane. Is that I'm not really. I'm not really What's that?
Todd McFarlane. I heard you in the at our dinner talk about him. I didn't realize how tall he was. So I had to go look and I said, "Were they talking about the same Todd?" Oh my gosh, they were.
Yeah.
Wow. Whoa.
You know, I'm not a huge fan of his art. I can appreciate it, but I'm not a huge fan of his art. But I have become a huge fan of Todd.
Yeah, exactly.
I like what he's done. I like his spirit of independence. I like his I love listening to interviews with Todd. There's one you guys have probably heard it, but he's like, he talks about people not doing anything. He's like, you don't like your job? I got the answer for you. Quit. you don't like this? I got the answer for you. Change it. And I'm like, that's just such a real down to earth attitude, and I love that. And he's got that very Nike, just do it. Stop talking about it and just do it.
He's Shia LaBeouf. That meme you see, just do it. Just stop talking about it. Just do it. Live your dream. Yeah, that's the thing. That's how I feel about Rob Liefeld. I've never been a fan of Rob Liefeld's art.
Right.
Never when I was younger either. I just never was. But the more I listened to him, or I talked about his podcast earlier, I like him as a person.
Yes.
I'd be okay with meeting him because he's not a hero. He's not somebody that I've taken into consideration and maybe put up on a pedestal at a young age or whatever.
Right.
The case is.
Yeah.
But that's about it. I like him as a person. I'm not wild about his art. I don't think he's as horrible as everybody makes him out to be.
No, I don't think so either.
And if he is, he sure as heck made a lot of money doing it, so you might want to shut up about it.
Well, and you know what? That is the argument that I make all the time when people start complaining about his art. I'm like, yeah, but he's got some magic component that there's enough people who like it will buy his work. So you can criticize it all you like, but there's a whole bunch more people who like it, and those are the ones that matter to Rob.
and he gets work done. I mean,
Yep.
I love Adam Hughes, but I mean, Rob Liefeld has done a ton of incomplete books and told the story from A to Z, and you know what I mean? I mean that's important to me. It's somebody that can actually tell the stories. So, sorry.
Infra fan said Todd is that kid who ate only the marshmallows from the cereal.
Yeah, he definitely has some ADHD kind of thing happening for him. But and even still with him, and he goes out there, he puts tutorials out there, he tells people how to, he's not trying to hide anything. I don't think he's really a massive jerk or anything in real life or other cases, but I don't want to find out.
I don't either.
Right.
Yeah, I remember the Peter David feud that they had back in the 90s.
Yes.
That was pretty fun. Well, yeah, we were there. That was then. Was that a Dragon Con or whatever? Where he came out and he was wearing his boxing outfit. Yeah, Barry and I were there. And in the audience, we went in there to watch that. And when it was over with, both Barry and I was like, "This is all fake." They were
together. I mean, come on. I mean,
but it was great though. It was surely. I even bought I got it somewhere. They were selling like the on tape or whatever, not videotape, but just audible, tape. We put it in the tape player.
I'm gonna go back because it's on YouTube. I'm gonna go find you in there.
Yeah. Barry and I and Jennifer, we were in the audience watching this thing, and he came out with the gloves on.
See,
and Peter decimated him. He just decimated him, really.
Yeah.
Well, and then when it was all done, you were like, "Yeah, we knew how that was going to turn out."
Yeah. Well, they'd swapped letters in the CBG for months.
Eric Larson was part of that too.
Yes,
Eric Larson. Yeah. Eric Larson, knowing Eric Larson was probably very serious about it.
Yeah.
Eric Larson.
Yeah. Infra Francis, Rob is very self-aware. Even Deadpool makes fun of him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rob, like you said, Rob seems like one of those guys that's just down to earth. You could hang out with him, go grab a burger and just sit and talk. he actually, I saw him about 3 years ago, and I wasn't sure he would remember me. But I walked up to him and introduced myself again. He goes, "I know who you are. You're Hank's buddy." so he knew me as Hank's friend. So which is okay. I don't mind being Hank's friend.
Well, that's the thing. His podcast. If you go listen to it, Curtis knows. He digs into a lot of history of comics. The guy loves comics.
Yeah,
he really does, and you can't take that away, no matter how you look at it. He actually does.
He is so passionate and like he is so giddy. You know, like if you have you're listening to podcasts, you have 1 and 1.5 speed, and a whole bunch of times I have to check that it's not at 1.5 speed because he talks.
He ran up. Oh yeah, he's fast talking to that.
Goodness. Yeah, it's like an auction. It's like, in 75, I got 2. Can I get 3? You know,
sometimes you got to rewind it just to make sure you heard.
It's funny because I listen to most of I listen to most of my student videos at 1.5 speed.
Really? So they get to the point.
They submit their video work online, and I'm like 1.5. It's like, can you please get on with this? I know none of them are listening to this, so I'm okay. Stephen Brown says Rob Liefeld isn't a bad artist. He has the uniqueness in his art that stands out from everyone else's. Yeah, and he's got that energy that the late '80s that the Image Comics guys had. That very much that West Coast. He kind of really, Marvel. I make the argument all the time. That part of the reason that Marvel outsold DC so much in the 60s and 70s is they had an energy that DC Comics didn't have. Their artists all tended to draw everything very stiff and relegated into the boxes, where Marvel, they were coming at you. The panels were tilted. I know someone mentioned that about one of Pete's panels in the Silverline Team Up book. The panels were tilted, the hands were in your face, and it was exciting, and they kind of took that and turned it to 11.
Yeah,
right. I think mostly Rob stuff.
I appreciate you got my reference.
People made fun of his, a lot of the inaccurate, clothing that changed all the time, and nothing. Yeah, a lot of the, some pouches, because he drew lots of pouches. How do you remember how many pouches are drawn? And they were always changing and that kind of stuff. But no, I kind of always like this stuff.
Yeah, me too. Infrafan says Rob and Todd having a conversation probably sounds like a fax machine.
on Rob's podcast, he does impersonations of Todd, and there was one episode where he started it like an interview with Todd, and it was like all him impersonating. It was hilarious.
I cannot believe how well he does that. It's like, wait a minute, Todd McFarlane does talk like that.
He does.
Well, it's funny when I got married, we stayed in a hotel for that evening in LA, and the next day they had EA, Electronic Arts, had this big thing at the hotel next to us. So we walked down there, and Todd McFarlane had done some art for one of the games for Titanfall 2, and he was there signing stuff. So I was like, hey, this is cool. So we went in line. That tells you my wife's patient, the day after our wedding.
Yeah, I know.
And I got him to sign something for me, and so I said, hey, I was talking to him. I said, hey, by the way, I used to work at Malibu back in the day when Image was there for a while. And he looked me up and down, and in front of my wife, he goes, well, what? You were there at that time. He goes, probably didn't even have hair on your ass at that time, did you? And I was like, okay, there you go. That's funny. Yeah, Todd McFarlane.
Personalized.
Yeah, exactly. Tailor made.
Yeah, it is funny to see some of the stuff tossed at some of those Image guys. And I'm not an Eric Larson fan by any stretch of the imagination, but I have to give him props because he set out to do his comic book. And if you'll look at what he's done the last 20 years or however longer than that, I guess. Gosh, dog, almost 30 years.
I want to tell you how long it's been.
Yeah, golly. Oh my goodness. But you look, he has done Savage Dragon constantly. I mean, just constantly has done it. So I got to give the guy props. You know, because he said, I'm leaving Marvel. This is what I'm going to do, and that's what he's done. You know.
Well. Here, talking about because the What If series is on
Mm-hmm.
Disney Plus now. Here's a question for you guys.
I just saw that.
They're pretty
last
fun.
night.
They're pretty fun.
I've been liking them. Yeah.
Finish your point.
Well,
then I wanna talk about
what if the Image guys didn't leave Image? Would we even be talking about them the same time, the same level that we do now? I mean, what if in that other universe they just stayed at Marvel? I'd be very curious if they would seem as relevant now as they are if they hadn't left. What do you guys think?
I don't think they would. I think we would be talking about them in the same way we talk about Neil Adams, or I'm trying to think of some of the other
even Neil Adams,
George Perez, right? Yeah. I mean, these guys are awesome, but we're talking about Jim and Todd and Rob because they left and they did their own thing and made lots of noise. If they had stayed at Marvel, they might have had some really good runs like George Perez or Neil Adams, and we might be talking about that story there or that story there that they did, but probably not in the way we're talking now.
And would they still even be doing comics, right? Professionally.
Well, Silvestri was on his way out the door supposedly.
Really?
If you there's some good Image. I'll try to remember which one it is. See, there's a really good Image. Shoot, what's the word I'm looking for?
I know Kirkman did one. History of comic books, and they also had one on Amazon Prime.
I think that's probably the one. But even Silvestri says because he was he's like, I was getting bored. I didn't think I was growing as an artist, and he was getting ready to quit comics until the Image
got
guys
replaced by Jim Lee on X-Men. That kind of hurts. Yeah, she was great even still, but
Stephen Brown said, I met plenty of artists when I went to MegaCon, showing me how to improve my work. I met Brian Stelfreeze, who's a great guy, and he showed me a way to make my character flow more organically. Infofran says, I agree. Those artists that stick to their bread and butter are so passionate about their creations. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Savage Dragon. Okay, and I don't know this one. Chakan? Do you know that one? Chakan? I don't know that one.
I think isn't that guy that's like an undead warrior, or you can't die? I think I vaguely remember that.
I don't know. Infofran, put if you can, I don't know if YouTube, put a link in there so that I mean, we everyone knows turtles. A lot of people know dragons, Savage Dragon, but I don't know the other one. Put a link in there if you can. And Stephen Brown says, I met others who have shown me how to improve in other parts of my art, like Stephen Butler. Yeah, of course, Stephen's a good friend of all ours. I you guys correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like 95% of the people in the comic book industry are going to be that way. You're going to approach them and they're going to be very friendly and helpful. There is that 5% though that are just total jerks, and
there are some.
They're there. But I think the overwhelming majority of people in the comic book industry are genuinely want to see you do well.
Yeah.
I'd agree. I'd say it's more 10%, Tommy, but I'll give you. Let's split the difference and say 7, okay?
Yeah. So, all right. So, any other? Our clock is winding down. Man, I get so transfixed in just watching Roberta take that wand and just like she starts doing things. I'm like, wait, how did you do that?
Angry.
What's that?
Well, anytime you have a question, just ask.
I will. I try to look. See, I can see the negative sign now. Oh wait, there was a plus.
See, there's a negative sign. No, it acts as a plus. Here's the problem. I will put a modifier key, and my computer ignores it. Photoshop thinks it's there, so I continue to make it happen. But
that's funny.
It likes laughing at me. So I do something, I have to do it like 3 times. So it takes some patience. I go, okay, do it again.
Yeah, and just to clarify for everyone who's watching, you are using a mouse to do all this, right, and not a pen.
I'm using a pen.
Oh, you are using a pen. Okay.
She's using a tablet. Yeah. Instead, she's not drawing on a screen. She's drawn on the little tablet off to the side, which I find amazing because I can't do that.
Oh, the
to
wasp,
save
like
my
the
life.
wasp.
Yeah,
The
walk
wasp.
with the
Yeah.
tablet.
Yeah.
So you're drawing on a tablet, not the screen.
Correct.
So you have to have amazing hand-eye coordination because you're like doing something
I
over
do not
here.
ever look. Yeah. Well, can you look at your screen and type your words, or do you have to look at your fingers?
Oh, I look at the screen. I don't have to look at my
Oh, that's what I'm
fingers.
saying. It's like that.
Oh, yeah.
Your brain maps the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's still cool. And Jackson Rennick says love watching color. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Jax will
I'm
have
glad
to.
I'm glad
now
it's
that I-
interesting.
Except I wouldn't have used that color there. I think it should be a different color. Make it blue. Make it blue.
Yeah.
I'm not going to change.
And that's why you're.
You can't.
Yeah,
I am
exactly
not
what C
gonna
said.
change it.
If you
and that's
if
why
you
you're
made
not
it
coloring
blue, it would totally mess up the whole flow.
Okay, orange. Make it orange. Make it orange.
Yeah.
Make it orange.
I have
It-
definitely
could do.
learned to have a
I could do orange.
huge appreciation for colorists.
Oh yeah.
Oh my, that is a hard job to do, and it is very, very impressive.
Well, you know what? Someone asked me if I could color, and I mean, if you put a gun to my head, yeah, I used to do it. You know, when I was young, and I kind of know how to do it. But there's so much that goes into the thought process.
Oh,
that, like
God.
someone like Roberta just, I mean, there's all about, focusing on, making sure the colors draw focus to a character and the depth of the character,
yeah.
the light sources, color
Complementary
choices.
colors, yeah, that's the hardest thing right there. Complementary colors and color choices, and then you got subsurface scattering and like all this nice fancy stuff. It's like
Now
Yeah,
you're
that
speaking a
was-
foreign language to me.
yeah.
Infrafan
So the
says
harder-
most, and I agree with you, Infrafan. Most there are some who don't fall within that. Yeah, Jax, I'll work really hard to see if we can't get one of those special things you're doing to fall to Roberta here. I think she might. I think she might be okay with that. Yeah. Stephen Brown says I met that one guy who I showed my work to, and all he said was go back to drawing stick figures. So he said I can ignore that guy because
Neil
he has
Adams?
no
No.
help. And Neil Adams, yeah,
Whoa.
probably. In for Fran says, yeah, forget that guy. Yeah. I remember you said you prefer black and white comics on our podcast. So if you're talking, if you're meaning me, I don't know that I prefer black and white comics, but I love black and white comics. And of course, Roberta, don't listen for a few minutes.
Okay. I'm okay
I-
with you liking black and white comics because, believe it or not, colorists love black and white comics.
Yeah. Well, I love black and white comics when and boy, this is going to be a barb here. I love black and white comics when the art is good. If you've got someone who knows how to handle storytelling, and then if you got an inker who knows how to provide depth and shade and light sources, man, you can get some really good. And I love studying, even like when Roberta's doing all this, I love looking at the line work because I'm looking at all these color holds she's got and like, man, look at all that. You did color
lot of
holds for
work.
all that stuff. Yeah, it's like, wow. And of course, I'll see some. I'm like, okay, there's a line that she's going to have to go back and fix because that's not supposed to be color held.
There's a whole bunch of stuff that you have to- Yeah, sometimes I want to lay it out so I can get this view, So like the cleanup and whatever is easier to handle once
So
I
go-
have
like,
an
go-
idea.
So I've seen.
So
I saw
like
you
now I know
selecting.
what I'm doing.
So like at the bottom left of that image, to the left of his shoe.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's those little action lines coming out there. I saw you fixing some of those one time. You had, I think
I'm
last
gonna
week.
fix lots of them. Yeah. It takes you. I can't even tell you how hard it is to keep all of them on one layer so I can make global changes to them. So
Yeah.
I'm always like switching where I put it, and it takes like a decision. Like I had to cut out
Mhm.
his shoe around the bottom here. and hopefully I like where I put it. And then there's got to be, this is where the line art
Yes.
is like a lot of different choices. I have to cut it out of one layer and put it in a different layer and then put color behind it and through it on a bottom layer. So the amount of steps it takes is worth it. It's just not easy to do in a stream.
Erase it. Don't worry about it. Just erase it.
Erase it.
There's
Yeah,
no
I think it was it's something exactly like that last week. I saw you going in and changing.
Well, here's the
colors and stuff
thing.
like that.
If you can see my circle, I have 3 layers of color holds.
Right.
Now, if I
There's 3.
swap them,
Yeah,
one will change order and hide the other one. So depending on if they were consistent with the line art as to where glass falls, sometimes it's foreground, sometimes it's midground. And if I choose one, then it switches, so I have to cut it out in a mask. That's a problem. So that's the process, is you have to say, okay, well, if I'm going to choose it's going to be on this side, then I got to start removing it in a mask over here in order for it to show here. It's just a process, and it's really cool when I'm done with it.
And that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
The process is the process.
Yeah. Infra fan says, I am so excited to start color work. By the end, I never want. Jackson says, background coloring I find the hardest. So coloring stuff in the background.
See, this is what I end up with, is like a mask.
Yes, and that's I think I saw you doing a lot of that last week.
A lot. That's because I had no idea that I put something on top that was more often on bottom. So I was like, damn, I gotta cut that out too.
I gotta fix that.
I'll fix that too. I'll fix that too.
Roberta, you got the same thing that I do. You start zooming in so far, like when I'm inking stuff like that, you're like, oh, do I need to zoom in that far? Nobody can see it anyway. But you're like me in the meaning that you're anal about fixing things that don't need to be. Yeah, it's like I do the same thing when I'm inking. I start zooming in there.
Yeah, if you zoom, you see it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what a colorist does, is they see everything. So you see something like, this is going to be a pain, but it.
Yeah, because that's part of that's part of the action line, not part of the background. That's part of the zooming part. Yeah, it's like, so what color do you put there? Do you put the purple in the glass
white,
or the wood? Yeah, that's exactly. It's whatever you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever I feel like at the time. But, that's the best part about it, is that's probably one of the last things I'll put in, is those kinds of action lines. Because
I tend to, when I do my color holds, when I color, I usually just wait to the very end, because it just gets confusing in my head. It's really cool to watch you color when you're doing the color holds as you go. It's like, no, I got to do one thing at a time. let me color
one thing at a time. So without the glass, I can change the opacity and make that work.
Pop through
wherever it is, right?
See, that's just so cool.
So I'll change it, and I'll just work on where it needs stronger percent to make it opaque, or make it transparent, or make it white, or whatever. It's going to be very cool when I get to the glass. So
that's
I saved
so cool.
it.
So cool.
Almost done.
So I think I forgot to ask when we swapped over to you, Roberta. But what are you working on here? What have we been watching?
Oh, we are watching a two-page spread of the Cat and Mouse. Now I'm not sure, what are you calling this one? Issue 4?
This is issue 4. No, this is issue 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the last issue of the first series.
Mm-hmm. So this is Cat, all his rage, jumping through a window with his friends, and they're trying to rescue said girl.
Right.
Again.
It looks great. I love
From her, who usually never looks uncomposed or surprised. So
Right.
I like this panel.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
She's always on top of everything, but not here. Just like, what?
I love the little details, like again, like harkening back to Roberta's really understanding of color and lighting. You notice that their eyes aren't solid white because in reality, nobody's eyes have a spotlight on them that would make them solid white, or their teeth, right? So she uses that little subtle blue, which is realistic, and if she didn't, it would look like fog lights on both on their eyes. And
it's
and
funny how when it's printed, it would be so much of a bigger contrast, that white paper. Yeah, like you said, like fog lights, just notice a difference. Shouldn't have to be that strong.
So here's a question. Infrafan says, as a colorist, how do you make the background interesting, especially in more abstract situations?
I think that's a tough question to ask, and it literally depends on the art that you're looking at the time. Because you have characters that have their general colors that they work with. So you start with, okay, what's that gonna look like, and what kind of a background would set them off? And then how realistic versus not realistic do you want it to be? The color of the room it's supposed to be, or do you want it to show the emotion of what might be happening? So you have to choose based on, is the art gonna look off if I made a night scene outside orange? Yeah, it probably would, but it would look cool. So I can't do it.
So what you're saying is put a radial burst back there, gradient burst. That's what that's the answer.
Well,
actually, it's not. If you put a gradient burst on something that doesn't have a strong line to it, this scene is nothing but busy. So you want to at least see the light that's happening on them. And if you have a radial blend in the background, you're gonna actually lose the characters to that.
Yeah.
So it would do the opposite effect that it does on a more solid character, like she's solid, not full of detail. But these guys have light everywhere and angles everywhere, and you wouldn't be able to make that choice, even though it probably would look good if it was blown up and big, but there's not much room in there. So
put a background picture of New Orleans back there. Yeah.
Cut and paste,
Yeah, just paste a picture of New Orleans skyline back there.
Yeah.
Just make sure you take the word New Orleans out.
Well, all right, y'all. My clock says that we've gone. So time to call it a night. Thank you all for hanging out with us. Jackson, we got to get you on here, man.
Save it.
Got to get you on and hang out with. Thanks to Steven Infrafan for asking us the hard questions. We appreciate that all the time. Shout out to our sponsor, Daytona Beach Comic Con, September 18th and 19th, which is just a couple of weeks away. You guys make your plans to go there now. We have already all started swapping messages about flights and cars coming in and places to stay and what we're going to do. So we're getting kind of excited about that, making plans, getting ready to set up there. We'll probably, it's a Saturday and a Sunday. We will probably go live from, oh, by the way, Curtis, you should plan to host that night. September the 19th.
Okay, September the 19th.
It's on the road that night.
Yeah. So make your plans. One fun comic show. C.
Yes.
Tell people where they can find you on the interwebs.
Well, you can always find me on Facebook, Instagram for C. Michael Lanning, and if you really want to venture over to Twitter, I'm on CML80 at Twitter, whatever Twitter is.
Yeah.
Of course, you guys check out the artist C. Michael Lanning on Facebook also. So.
Excellent.
And here on Sunday nights.
That's right, here on Sunday nights, and maybe after Tommy gets a couple of secret inks under his belt. We might see some more inks rejects being done, right?
I almost finished the page while we were doing this.
Sweet. One of the secret things.
No. I was thinking that if I was gonna stream something, then we needed
You'd have
to see
rejects. Gotcha.
So I almost finished another rejects page while we were.
Nice.
Yeah.
So good. Curtis, how about you? Where can folks find you on the interwebs?
Sure. Before I forget, don't forget to check out the Silverline Zazzle store. Mugs, license plate holders, all sorts of cool stuff.
That's right.
But as far as me, you can find me on Facebook. You can find me either through my martial arts stuff or through my comic book stuff. Martial arts Tiger Crane 805 on Instagram and YouTube. Tiger Crane Kung Fu on Facebook, and then for my comic book, Shadow Ghost Comic on Instagram and on Facebook. That's where you can find it.
Kung Fu comic from a Kung Fu master.
Thank you.
I absolutely love that. It's a great tagline. Roby, what about you? Where can folks find you on the interwebs?
I could be found on generally Facebook and Instagram under Roby Comics. So look for that, and anything that Silverline does, I should be out and about there on their Silverline socials. So check those out.
Here on Sunday nights, right?
And of course, here on Sunday nights. Who could forget that?
That's right. Tommy. What? Would you look at you? Just rub it in our faces. It does look so good.
It does look great.
Thanks.
Thomas Florimonte, Florimonte. Just go on the Googles and search for me. I'm on Facebook. I'm just here and there and everywhere. Go to infernostudios.com. You can find some links there. And hopefully we'll get a bunch of folks to come see us all out at the show in a couple of weeks. And you can find me there, and then the Sunday shows and the blah 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 and everywhere else, and I'm just everywhere. I gotta go back to reading my books. Hold on a minute.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
before
before
the first time, man.
Yeah, reading it for the first time. Yeah, which is actually true in Tommy's case.
You won't be disappointed, Tommy. It's good. It is very good.
Thank you, Roberta. It looks good. I'm excited about it. I'm excited to get it in everybody's hands. Shout out to my son Brett, who has been working behind the scenes to keep us online. As Carlos handles Carlos and New Armor Media handles some personal things they got to take care of. So thank you very much, Brett. I'll feed you again this week. How's that?
Oh yeah,
there's
Peter.
Pete.
Pete didn't make it in the show. So Pete's in the comic book. He drew himself in the comic book.
So hold that a little bit closer. So
I gotta get the light there.
Please tell me he backed that tier then that he could be drawn into.
There's Pete. He couldn't make it on the show tonight, so if he's watching, there you are, Pete.
If he's watching, he's not gonna watch, right? So I'm gonna tell you all this. I got plans for that guy. Yeah. When I found out Pete drew himself in, I'm like, okay, all right. I see what we're doing.
If he's a hitman or if he's a hitman and or assassin, can you please make the line "I'm just a hitman" or "I'm just an assassin" or something like that? Please?
Dude, I gotta make a note of that.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
Just a hitman.
My name is Pete Clinton. I'm just a penciler, and okay, that's my.
I'm
very bad British accent.
I may have to. Yeah, was that what that was supposed to be?
That wasn't even close.
Man, I'm thinking about it. I may want to go back and add a line to that now. Well, anyway, okay, so I'm rolling. You can find me. On
I haven't printed those books yet, so if you need to change something, let me know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I got the energy, but it could be fun, right?
It would be.
Of course, he drew himself bald, so it would almost be neat if we could add his hat to him. Just a penciler, right?
Yes.
That would be fun. That would be so fun.
You can find me there. You mostly can find me hanging out at the Silverline places. Uh-oh, guess what I don't have here? Someone's going to have to help me out.
Make mine!
Thank you. You know what time it is, everyone. Remember to make mine Silver. Thank you, Roberta. Make mine Silverline. Good night, everybody.